Howdy. This is the Views from the Shop podcast. I'm your host, your one and only host, Tim Miller, and today it is Tuesday, February 10th, 2026, and I wish you a very, very, very happy National Home Warranty Day. Well, on today's show, we are going to preview Ohio State taking on USC tomorrow. Fair warning, I don't normally ever record at this time. Usually shows come out in the morning, but this is how the day has gone. So you will get an evening show from me at this point. A lot of people may listen on Wednesday. That's totally fine. Welcome in here. Please make sure that you subscribe wherever you get your podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, please like the video right now. Please subscribe on YouTube. We want to get to 300 before we get to March Madness. And if we get there, we're all happy. I don't even have any kind of reward or anything like that. I'd like to get to 300 subscribers on YouTube. So please help us get there. Make sure you subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Give a 5-star review as well, wherever you get your podcast. Let's get into this, shall we? Because it's a big game for Ohio State. And you know me, if you listen to the show for any amount of time, you know that I am not the guy who's pounding the pavement and going out, and every single game I'm working hard and saying, hey, this is a big one for Ohio State. This game means a lot. This game in January, it's a must win for Ohio State. That's never been me. That's never been my approach. And while I will not say that this game for Ohio State against USC is a must win, I also won't say it's a can't lose for Ohio State. I will say that this may be the biggest game of the season so far to this point for Ohio State. Now, it's good if there's people coming in with, you're waiting for the Ohio State spring game and not a lot going on. Rosters are set in college football for the most part, and you're looking at the Super Bowl ending and NFL's over. So now I turn my attention to college basketball, and this game kind of falls perfectly for that type of fan because I believe this is the final chapter of the season for Ohio State basketball, and it starts with this game here against USC. Now, imagine a couple weeks ago, you may recall, there was a huge snowstorm, winter storm, whatever, that swept through a good swath of the United States, from the Midwest to the Mid-Atlantic to New England, down south as well. A lot of people got hit, from Texas all the way up, obviously, to Ohio, up into Massachusetts, and further. Everyone's getting hit with snow, ice, sleet, all those different types of things. Well, here in Ohio, analytics say that most people who listen or watch this show are in Ohio. So let's picture that we're in Ohio, okay, for this snowstorm that's coming in. If you're anything like me, you got well over a foot of snow. It was a lot. And you probably did some shoveling on Sunday, maybe a couple times, maybe just once. I don't know. I don't know how you handled it. But at some point, you had to get out of the driveway. You might have been in the garage. You might be in the driveway. You might be parking on the street. I don't know your situation, but I do know this. At some point after that snowstorm, you had to get out. You had to get moving. And why do I bring this up? Because I think we are in that exact scenario here for Ohio State basketball. Let me explain here, okay? It might have been Monday morning, might have been Sunday evening, maybe Tuesday. I don't know. At some point, you had to get out of your driveway. And there were two options, right? You sit down in the car, you warm it up, you brush the snow off the car, and you get to the point where you say, all right, we got to go. And you've did your shoveling, right? You've done your shoveling. And maybe for some people, you're not quite sure. Did I do enough? Am I really going to get out of this driveway? Am I going to get moving today? I don't know. And Ohio State is in the point where, look, you've gotten through the snowstorm, all right? You've gotten through it. And now it's a point where we've got a chance to get moving here. We've got a chance to get out of the house after a couple days being stuck away. I don't know how that really compares to real life for Ohio State. Whatever. But Ohio State has warmed up its car, and it has sat down in the driver's seat, and it has now shifted its car into drive. And there's two options here for Ohio State. One, you're going to get the chance to go. You're going to get the chance to get this car rolling a little bit, to gain some momentum. Might have to gas it, might have to gun a little bit to get onto your road. And you're going to have the opportunity here to start driving and have a chance to get to your destination. Maybe it's work. You'll have that opportunity, right? And if you play your cards right, that's this game for Ohio State, where if you win, you haven't made it to the destination, which is the NCAA tournament for Ohio State. You're not in, okay? You haven't made it to work yet, for example. But you're on your way, and there may still be some bumps in the road. Maybe a street isn't cleared off that you expected. Maybe there's a big snow drift, and maybe you get thrown off schedule a little bit, but you've at least gotten the car going at this point. That's a win for Ohio State. A loss in this game for Ohio State means, you know what? It's not impossible. We can still make it to work, but we're probably going to be a little bit behind schedule. We're going to have to climb out of our car. We're going to have to get the shovel. The back tires, they're just spitting with snow. You're not getting any traction whatsoever. Maybe you take cat litter. Maybe you take some just good old-fashioned road salt, and you throw it under those tires. And after 10 or 15 minutes of fighting, you get out finally, and you're on the road. But you're going to be late, and you are behind. You're behind schedule. That's a loss for Ohio State at this point. I'm not saying that this game is the end-all be-all for Ohio State, but it at this point, are we going to get some momentum here and have a chance to really get grooving into February and have a chance to go to the NCAA tournament, or are we going to be behind? Because a loss for Ohio State means that it is behind. So that's how I would set the scene for this game, where a lot of times I come to a game and I just say, look, Ohio State, yeah, it would be huge if they won it, or they can't really afford to lose this game. At this point, it's neither of those, because it's a quad 2 game for Ohio State. You can afford to lose it. It doesn't help, obviously, but winning it also doesn't do a lot, because it's always going to be most likely a quad 2 game for Ohio State, unless USC goes on a tear down the stretch here. But that's what this game is for Ohio State. Are we going to get on the road and have a chance to create some momentum here and get to work on time, which would be the NCAA tournament, or are we going to lose this game, we're going to climb out, we're going to have to try to dig ourselves out and then get moving while everyone else is already on their way to work? That's what this game is for Ohio State. So as we get into a preview here for the Buckeyes, we'll say this. If you are getting into Ohio State basketball just now, this is the right time. This is the final chapter of the season, and this is the time to lock in if you're a Buckeye fan. So we'll do what we always do on a preview show. We'll get into the background for USC. We'll talk about their offense and their defense. 2 keys to the game I have for Ohio State to win this one, and then a prediction. Look, if you're still mad about the Michigan game, a good point was brought up to me. I didn't know this until today. Ohio State, that team, after the Maryland game, they got stuck. I think we all know that at this point. They got stuck at the airport. They got 2 hours of sleep that night. They were sitting there on the runway, sitting in their plane, hoping they could leave. They couldn't leave. They decided, you know what, let's just book a hotel and let's go sleep for a little bit, right? They got 2 hours of sleep because then they had to get back to the airport, try to leave again, and all that. So they were on no rest, essentially, against Michigan. A really, really short turnaround as well against Michigan for that game, and they got destroyed. They got embarrassed against a rival. Well, Ohio State's had some chance to rest. They're finally getting healthy at this point as well. Puff Johnson, I would say there's a good shot that he plays in this game for Ohio State. So they're getting there. On the USC side, you're going to see something here. USC's 18-6. They've got a better record than Ohio State. They sit at 7-6 in the Big Ten right now. Whole lot of wins on that schedule, but right now, a team that's seen in the NCAA tournament, probably they're nowhere close to a lock. And it's because the non-conference hasn't been that strong for USC. They've got wins in the non-conference over Seton Hall, Boise State, and Arizona State. And in Big Ten play, they started the year winning at Oregon. Then they lost at home to Washington. They've got losses to Michigan, Michigan State, Purdue, Iowa, all obviously very good teams near the top of the Big Ten at this point. Their best win comes at Wisconsin. That's a huge win. They also won at home against Indiana. So they've got some quality wins in conference play. Overall, their last 3, they've won games against Rutgers, Indiana, and Penn State, and they needed basically a buzzer beater to beat Penn State as well. The analytics right now, 48th in the net, 48 Ken Palm, 47 Bart Torvik. That is as of games done through February 9th, so going into February 10th. They've got 1 quad 1 win, and they've got a couple of quad or a fair amount of quad 1 losses, 1 quad 3 loss as well. That game came at home against Northwestern. The biggest problem with the USC resume right now is the non-conference strength of schedule. Like I said, according to Ken Palm, 203rd in non-conference strength of schedule right now. Eric Musselman leading the Trojans in his second year, 17-18 last year. He got his squad ranked 24th at one point this season. Then they got destroyed, I think, by Michigan. So quickly out of the rankings, kind of a softer schedule early on that helped them get ranked. They did a lot of work in the portal in each of the first 2 years here with Musselman. Chad Baker-Mazzara there stands out, obviously, playing for USC. Just like Ohio State, it's a second-year head coach trying to figure it out, trying to fight to get in the NCAA tournament. So very similar for USC. And USC, exact same thing. Ohio State, they're foaming at the mouth to pick up a big win tomorrow night. USC is doing the exact same because this is going to be a quad one game for USC. It's never not going to be a quad one game for USC. So this is a big one. It's also a road game. It's a Big Ten game. All those things, this could really help USC's resume. So this is a big one for the Trojans as well. USC lost Rodney Rice for the season. He played just 6 games. He's the team's leading scorer, scored 20 points per game, 6 rebounds per game. He had 21 and 10 against a mid-major, good mid-major, but a mid-major in Illinois State. He also played against Seton Hall and Boise State. So he's played some real competition to get those numbers. That's a big miss or a big loss for USC. Chad Mazzara, he missed the last game against Penn State. He day-to-day is what was said publicly. No idea if he's going to play in this one. Ohio State, probably very curious as well on if he's going to play. Elijah Arenas, son of Gilbert, Cam Woods, they've been much needed additions on the roster as well. Arenas began his career in college basketball on January 21st. He's been really, really good. He's the one who led to a win against Penn State at the game-winning shot there. And then Woods comes in from Robert Morris. Began action January 2nd. Single-handedly gave USC a shot to beat Iowa. He scored 33 points, 19 points in a row in that game to mount a huge comeback against Iowa. They just ended up coming up a little bit short in that one, but good fight from USC. So the USC offense averaging 80.3 points per game so far this season, 46.7% from the field, 32.4% from the three-point line. They're 77th in the nation in adjusted offensive efficiency. So Ken Palm analytically does not really like the USC offense, especially not as much as it likes the defense. Very rarely will I start an offensive preview with this stat, but this is the glaring stat for USC offensively. They are number 1 in college basketball at getting to the free throw line. They've got a 47.5% free throw attempt rate. That is the highest in college basketball. They average 27.5 free throws attempted per game. You look at Ezra Azor, 8.6 free throw attempts per game. That is number 1 among active Big Ten players. No one is going to the free throw line as much as he is so far this year, but he's only 67.5% from the free throw line. Of his 15.9 points per game that he scores, nearly 6 points per game come from free throws. That is a lot. Chad Mazzara, we'll talk about him. Again, he's probably going to come into this game. I don't know if he'll be on the injury report or if he'll just if he'll be questionable and he'll play or what the situation will be for him. But if he doesn't play, it'll be huge for Ohio State. I personally hope he doesn't play just so Ohio State has a better shot of winning this game. But 5 free throw attempts per game and 91% from the free throw line. That's number 1 in the Big Ten. The best free throw shooter in the Big Ten comes from USC, and it's Chad Mazzara, who there were tweets going around that he's not on his parents' health insurance anymore because he's 26 years old. I can't confirm or deny if he's actually 26. It's hard to say, but certainly possible. It's possible. He's 6'7", does a great job kind of driving, getting to the rim, and just drawing contact, using the length he has to get to the free throw line. So overall, Chad Mazzara and Ezra Azor, 2 guys to keep an eye on. Cam Woods, he started the year 0 of 13 from 3. He then went 2 of 4 against Iowa and hit a couple shots against Indiana as well from deep. That 3-point shot is not there overall. And quite frankly, it's ugly. He has an ugly 3-point shot. Motion just does not look natural. But he can score at the free throw line. And he has to get there a lot, though, to score from the free throw line. Only 67.6% from the free throw line. So you got him, you got Azor, not great. Free throw shooters as a team, they're shooting 72.2% from the free throw line. That's the exact percentage they shot against Penn State, going 13 of 18 in that win. So not a great free throw shooting team, but they are very, very good at getting to the free throw line. So now for Ohio State, the question is, can they defend this team without fouling? Well, Ohio State commits 17.5 personal fouls per game. Free throw shooting, it's not been a consistent problem for them defensively. Gone are the days of the Sean Stewart, Devin Royal, Micah Parrish, Aaron Bradshaw, Evan Mahaffey days where these guys were just taking turns fouling out every night. Christoph Tilley, he's had some foul issues. He did against Michigan. He had 4 fouls in each of his last 2. Fouled out against Minnesota in that win. Partly why Ohio State goes to the 2-3 zone, I think, is kind of to protect guys like Christoph Tilley and this roster overall from getting into foul trouble due to the depth. But this is something that Ohio State's going to have to do well in this game, is they're going to have to defend USC without fouling. Because if they do, if you start to get in foul trouble, you got the depth issue with Ohio State. You're giving away free points to USC. And you look up, there's 8 minutes left to go in the second half, and USC's already in the double bonus. That's obviously going to be a problem. So that's something to keep an eye on, just as a whole, is how often is USC getting to the free throw line? Because outside of getting to the free throw line, they're really not special necessarily offensively. Now, they will push the tempo. They're 80th percentile in the nation in pace. They'll shoot early in the shot clock. A lot of this comes from driving to the rim. 33% of their shots come right at the rim. They're not afraid to fire from mid-range either, really similar to Ohio State. They take nearly 15% of their shots from the mid-range. Chad Baker-Mazara continues to hate on analytics and just the purity and sanctity of college basketball. Shoots more mid-range than just about anyone in all of college basketball. Old friend Jerry Easter, hey, he's doing well, and I wish him well. We've exchanged some messages from time to time. I wish Jerry the best. He'll take some shots from mid-range as well. He's having a nice year so far for USC. As a freshman, they're not going to blow you away scoring in the fast break. 10 points per game in the fast break, but certainly not bad either. So they will push a tempo a little bit. They're a very poor three-point shooting team, though. I wonder if it's just something that you're bad at doing, so you don't do it a lot. And because you don't do it a lot, you're still bad at it. And because you're bad at it, you don't do it a lot. Kind of like, I don't know, if we have a hobby, maybe like learning a language or something, learning the guitar. It's hard to do. We're bad at it at first, so we don't do it. And then we keep not doing it. And because we're bad at it, we don't want to do it. Maybe that's USC's approach with three-point shooting. I would assume probably not, but it's a thought. Really low three-point attempt rate. 34.1%, 34.1% three-point attempt rate so far this year. As a result, they're making 32.4% of their shots from deep. That's not great. Chad Baker-Mazara, he helps here. He shoots it well, 37%. Jordan Marsh coming off the bench. He can hit some three-pointers as well. He's the best three-point shooter on the team, at least percentage-wise. So those are two guys to look out for, but USC probably not going to beat Ohio State in this game by shooting three-pointers. We know Ohio State's three-point defense has been really, really good so far this year, so that doesn't seem to be a matchup worth worrying about for Ohio State in this one. But, look, it happened. Adai Mara, 0-4, then he goes 2-2, or 2-3, I guess, but makes his first two shots against Ohio State. Nolan Winter, look at what he did for Wisconsin against Ohio State. These things happen. You just hope it doesn't happen in this one for Ohio State against USC. Overall players for USC, Chad Baker-Mazara, I've mentioned him a bunch already. He's their leading active scorer at 18.4 points per game. He can score from anywhere on the floor, from the free throw line, from the mid-range, shooting three-pointers, driving to the rim. Plays pretty similarly, I would say, to a Keyshawn Hall. You may know that name. If you're a absolute Ohio State basketball sicko, you know that name, Keyshawn Hall, because you know Ohio State maybe had some interest there in the portal. Plays similar to him. Kind of a blend of Lamar Wilkerson and Nate Biddle, if you want to go to Big Ten players in terms of their scoring, their shooting, their usage, playmaking, things like that. Obviously, he doesn't have the size of either of Wilkerson in terms of the shortness or the bigness of Nate Biddle, but blend of that type of player who can really pour it in, pretty efficient shooting, takes care of the ball pretty well, nice assist rate, things like that. Pretty similar in that regard. He's more than capable of dropping over 20 points in this game on Ohio State. So something to keep an eye on. Obviously, this is going to be the focal point in terms of Ohio State's defense, who they send their attention to. You also look at Ezra Azor. I talked about the 15.9 points per game. If you can keep him away from the free throw line, you've got a good chance to keep him contained pretty well in this one. He's been a pretty consistent scorer, really exceptional efficiency as well. You're only going to see him take shots at the rim or in the paint. Only one three-pointer attempted so far this year. So, I mean, cross your heart and hope to die. I mean, Azor can't do what Adai Mara did to Ohio State, right? Right? So we'll see, but he's going to take his shots from up close. Look at Cam Woods. He can get hot, and you can't get beat by him down low. He's not a shooter. He's a guy who wants to drive. That's what USC is. Very similar to Washington in terms of overall play style offensively. When it comes to the style of play, bunch of guys who really want to get inside and make shots there. Jerry Easter, mentioned him. He's settled in a little bit, really starting to play well in consistent minutes. And Jacob Kofi, another player I'll mention, could be a problem on the offensive glass. 11.9% offensive rebounding rate over the past 5. That's really good. That's led to better chance scoring as well for him and the team over the last 5. So those are some guys to keep an eye on offensively for USC. Now, defensively, for the Trojans, this is where they've been pretty solid this year, allowing 75.8 points per game, 41.8% from the field, 29.5% from the three-point line, and 38th in adjusted defensive efficiency, according to Ken Palm. Absolutely excellent three-point defense. Less than 30% of shots overall convert. They're still allowing a pretty high 41.7% three-point attempt rate. That's not insanely high. It's relatively high. They held Michigan to 6 triples made, held Iowa and Wisconsin to 8. Purdue had 7 made triples against USC this year. They've only allowed 10 or more three-pointers in a game 4 times this year. Folks, does it matter? I mean, you watch Ohio State just as much as I do at this point, right? Ohio State's not a three-point shooting team. They're not a three-point threat. John Mobley Jr. may get hot. Devin Royal has been ice cold recently from the free throw line. Christoph Tilley, hey, he had a nice game against Michigan, shooting it early on. Bruce Thornton doesn't shoot enough, probably not aggressive enough from the three-point line for this to be a concern. So all in all, the USC three-point defense is really good. Ohio State three-point offense, not great. So what do? I don't know if it matters. Ohio State has made 10 or more three-pointers 3 times this year. That's it. And only 1 time in Big Ten play. They made 10 against Wisconsin. That's the most makes they have from the three-point line in Big Ten play so far this year. So they haven't made more than 10. They made 10 plus 3 times this year. They haven't made more than 10 in a Big Ten game at all this year. So I don't know. I don't see that really being that much of an issue when it comes to this matchup for Ohio State against USC. What could be an issue? Shot blockers. USC has some shot blockers on this team. They've got a 15.2% block rate. That number, I throw it at you. You may say, okay, I mean, that sounds good, I guess. I don't really know. That's 10th in the nation. Only 9 teams block shots at a higher rate than USC's defense so far this year. That's Kofi, that's Chad Baker Mazzara. Gabe Dines is a player worth mentioning here. He is 7'5". He's listed as 7'5". He averages 1 block per game in 12.5 minutes per game. So you're getting what? How can I explain this in a way that not you but me? How can I understand it? Because I know that you would get it. You don't need that much help. Who's playing about 12.5 minutes per game this year for Ohio State? Gabe Cupps. Gabe Cupps has now fallen to 13.5 minutes per game. Obviously, playing time not there right now. For Gabe Cupps, Taysom Chapman has taken him over in the rotation. That's like Gabe Cupps, the Gabe Cupps minutes that we're used to, him getting 1 block per game. That's wild. Not just because Gabe Cupps is small, but it's just the minutes. So he can block shots. Can Gabe Dines? He's a guy to watch. Overall, 30.8 paint points per game allowed by the USC defense. This is where you need to lock in, okay? This is an important number. 30.8 paint points allowed per game. Teams are making 60.6% of shots at the rim. That's low. It's not really low, but it's low. This is a huge matchup to watch in this game. Is USC's paint defense against Ohio State's paint offense. In wins this year for Ohio State, the Buckeyes are scoring 39.4 paint points per game in conference play. Nearly 40 paint points per game for Ohio State in the paint in wins. In losses in conference play, that number drops down to 29.3. They score 10 points per game more in wins in conference play in the paint than they do in losses. This is a magic number, and this may be your locked in stat that you can stamp this on every game moving forward. Kind of like last year, it was the core 4 for Ohio State. It was Bruce Thornton, John Mobley Jr., Micah Parrish, and Devin Royal. There was some stat. I don't remember the number, but I just did the math and found, hey, when these 4 scored this amount, Ohio State has a winning record. When they scored less than that amount, they have a losing record. This could be it for Ohio State down the stretch here. Can they score, 35 in this one in the paint? If so, I think they win. If they score 31, you might be losing this game if you're Ohio State. They're coming off a game where they only scored 20 paint points, by the way, to Michigan. That's a season low. Other point here on the USC defense. They can be beat on the defensive board. 68.7% defensive rebounding rate. That's 44th percentile in college basketball, so a little below average. Ohio State, they continue a pretty strong campaign on the offensive glass. Jake Diebler said today that he's not been all that pleased with the rebounding effort from Ohio State. He said after the Michigan loss, you can't allow Morez Johnson Jr. to have 3 offensive rebounds on the same freaking possession. I would agree with that. But on the offensive glass, they've been pretty good. They pulled in 14 against Wisconsin, double digits in 5 Big Ten games in a row on the offensive glass as well. Second chance scoring, too, has been really good for Ohio State, dating all the way back to that Oregon game. So those are some notes there on the USC defense. A big matchup to watch is Ohio State in the paint offensively. Bruce Thornton, Devin Royal, Christoph Tilley, those types of players. Amari Bynum, can they score in the paint, or will USC's defense be stronger in this one? That's something to keep an eye on here in this one. 2 keys to the game for Ohio State. Very simple. There's 2 stat profiles that are very, very clear. How can you beat USC? How can you win playing your brand of basketball? Number 1, you got to win in the paint before USC can win in the paint. That's going to be huge in this one on both sides, because USC, the best way that they can score is when they're scoring in the paint. Like I said, not a big time 3-point shooting team. If we look at their paint scoring, where are you, USC? I hate when I can't find the team. Southern California is what they're under. Let me find their paint scoring. Just pause. I'll give you the actual number here. 34.9 paint points per game. That's 75th percentile in college basketball. So USC likes to score in the paint, obviously offensively. The Buckeyes like to do the exact same offensively in the paint. So who can win the paint battle in this one when it comes to the USC offense against the Ohio State defense and the Ohio State offense against the USC defense? That combination very well could decide the outcome in this game. Ohio State has got to go win in the paint offensively and defensively before USC can win there in the paint. If so, I would assume the winner of this game probably has more paint points. That would be my guess. Hold me to that. Hopefully I remember to check in on that after the game. We'll see. But that's something to keep an eye on. That's the first key to the game for Ohio State. The second one, you got to play clean. This is a USC team that can draw fouls with the absolute best of them. Actually, they are the best of them. No one can draw fouls at a higher rate than USC. They love to get to the free throw line. And you're going to have to hope, even if they do get to the free throw line, they have a game that's closer to their average of 72.2% from the free throw line than a 79% game from the free throw line, something like that. You're going to have to hope for a poor free throw shooting game if USC can get there. But Ohio State, again, you look at the depth. You look at no Josh Ojawuna. You look at no Brandon Knoll. Questionable about if Ohio State will have Puff Johnson this game. Everyone else should be available for Ohio State. So you got to play clean. Christoph Tilley especially has got to play clean, because if you get Tilley in foul trouble and then you need more minutes from Ivan Nagovin, well, Nagovin, he struggles with fouls as well. So Ohio State's going to have to play clean basketball in this game defensively in order to win. All right, prediction. What does the BIP say about this game? Well, the BIP likes Ohio State by 5.5. Buckeyes by 5.5, according to the BIP. Total at 152.5. It is about 7 o'clock here p.m. Do we have a number for the Ohio State? Wow, we do. And Ohio State is favored by 6.5 in this game. I'm telling you, folks, I go back to the analogy at the start of this show where I said this is the game where you can either get some momentum and get rolling here, get a chance to get to the NCAA tournament, get ahead of schedule, or at least stay on track. You want to get on track and stay on track, you lose this game, man. At 6.5-point favorites, that would be tough. That would be tough. Here's the thing for Ohio State. Puff Johnson should be back in this one. I think there's a chance at least he's going to be back. Jake Diebler called him day to day. For USC, there's a chance they don't have Chad Baker Mazzara. Look, when it comes to playmakers, when it comes to the ceiling of talent for both teams, I look at USC and I say, yeah, Jerry Easter, he's a good player. Cam Woods, I mean, he can do what he does, but outside of Chad Baker Mazzara, what does USC have? I think USC not having Rodney Rice really, really hurts them. And if they did, this could be a completely different type of outcome, and USC could have even more wins than they do. They probably would if they had Rodney Rice. I look at Ohio State, and I look at the top level talent. A normal day from Bruce Thornton. A normal day from John Olby Jr. I'm not saying you're going to get that, and then a normal day from a Christoph Tilley or Devin Royal. Tayson Chapman comes off the bench and he scores 9 points for you. I just think overall the top level talent in this game, it leans really, really heavily toward Ohio State. Now, you can talk about the coaching matchup, whatever, that's fine. But Ohio State's the home team. USC, by the way, Let me take a look here. Give me a second, please. Okay, so USC, it's the second game of their trip out west. They were at Penn State on Sunday, so they're used to the time zone difference, but Ohio State is still the home team, and the home team in Big Ten play is traditionally the team that is going to win the game. So I look at the talent disparity that I think is in this game for Ohio State. I look at that. I look at Ohio State being the home team as well. And I look at neither of this team being that much more desperate than the other, which I still don't really buy that narrative regardless. But I think that overall, the desperation probably pretty similar between the two. Because of that, I think Ohio State, as the home team, they're going to be favored. Well, they are favored. And just the talent they have. I think Ohio State wins this game. Now, is it close? I think so. I think we sweat this one out. And I'll be honest, I'm very, very nervous about this game. I'm very nervous because I can see Ohio State losing this game 73-69. And you say, you got to be freaking kidding me. And you look at a couple plays, you look at a couple players, and you say, man, if only this were different, they would have won this game. And then such is life on Twitter where people get really upset, which is fine. You're well within your right to do so. But I could see Ohio State losing this game very easily. I do not have a good feel on it. I am not confident saying Ohio State's going to win, even as a 6.5 point favorite. I'm not confident in saying them winning. I would lean toward USC covering. I don't know, man. I don't know. But I'm going to pick the Buckeyes to win this game. I think that they've got the talent to do it, and I think it's as simple as that. I think the depth of talent for Ohio State is better than USC, so that's why I think the Buckeyes win this game. All right, so here's what we'll do. Wednesday night, I'll recap. You'll have a show ready for you Thursday morning. Make sure you subscribe so you get it. Make sure you like the video on YouTube as well if you're here still. And then it'll be Friday, and you're going to get back-to-back days with shows because I'm going to have to preview Ohio State against Virginia. And then the Buckeyes have a huge one at home against Wisconsin. Feels very similar to the USC game where you're the home team. You're going to be expected to win. You got to pick that game up. We'll see what Ohio State does against Virginia. But before that, we got to see what the Buckeyes do here tomorrow night against the Trojans. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your Tuesday if you're listening on Tuesday. If not, hope you have a great Wednesday as well, and happy hump day to you. Until next time, thanks for listening to today's show. I shut up. Before you shut me off, go Bucks.